GoPro battery ran out like halfway through it. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Wait, you got to interview actual space people?
Yeah, like the actual mission controllers.
What?
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. Inside mission control room.
Yeah. How'd you set that up?
Just met. So when we first did Apollo, we got this message from this guy called, oh God, what was his name? I'm trying to remember his name. It's gone at the moment anyway, and we're like, hang on, that name's familiar. Like,
Yeah.
who is that? And Cy Liebergott, the
Yeah.
guy's name. And like, that's a familiar name. Like, what's going on here? So we Googled him, and he was Ecom, which is one of the main roles in mission control during the Apollo program. And we were like, okay, so obviously he's got like a Google alert on tracking anything to do with Apollo 13 and just gets pinged whenever something came up, and our show came up. So he contacted us, and we stayed in contact with him, and then he put us on to this guy called Jerry Bostick, who was FIDO, which is another position in mission control, and we became kind of even closer to him. And so when we went over to the States, he came along to our show, and then we went back, and him and this guy John Aaron, who is like kind of one of the more famous mission controllers, we met them in Texas and had like barbecue and stuff, and then they took us into mission control, and we like interviewed them in there, and they told us what was happening, and like, yeah, it was quite amazing.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So you didn't even reach out to these people. They somehow
The
found
first
what
one
you're...
found us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's like some law of attraction stuff going on there.
Totally. Yeah, totally. It was, and it's quite amazing. Like they almost didn't even remember what they'd done, because they were like, everything was so mechanical back then.
Yeah.
And like using slide rules and calculating and stuff. They're like, it's all stuff that would be super simple to do on a computer now. But they were like sitting like at these consoles with these like numbers coming through, and they're like, couldn't even really tell you what's on the screen anymore.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't even know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, because I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but they were using you and the Apollo project as one of the examples of what you might be able to do after a design degree at Victoria University, years after you're gone. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, and I always wondered who this guy was, and it was crazy to run into like years and years later in the studio.
It was such a, I think that's kind of, I'm quite happy about that, because it's kind of like, when I first started doing it, I was like, oh my God, why did I do this industrial design degree? Like, I'm doing something that's not even industrial design. But then when you kind of step back, you're like, this is totally industrial design. Like, this is, and those skill set is so, any design skill set is so transferable that, yeah, so it's kind of like, yeah, it totally is. It's a valid thing to do. I mean, it's not necessarily a money-making thing to do, but I'm sure going to work for Porsche would probably make you a lot more money, but hey.